here we go. Salute to Knicks Nation on this Thursday night. Special edition of Knicks Fan TV Live, presented by KnicksFanTV.com. CP the franchise here, and on the other side, special guest. But he's always with us, man. He's our guy, Knicks insider for SNY, also covers the Nets. Ian Begley on the other side, man. And this is the Knicks quarter season report. Knicks 10-12 on the campaign. So let's check in with Ian. Let's talk about it, some of the key storylines so far this season. And if you guys have any questions for us, man, call us up 657-383-1509, or you could hit us up on the Knicks Fan TV Discord, man. So hit that thumbs up button for you boys, and let's get right into it, man. Once again, Knicks Fan TV Live, presented by KnicksFanTV.com. Ian, welcome back, man. How you doing?
CP, I'm good, man. I'm really good. It's always good to be with you. Quarter mark of the season, man. Is it going by fast for you, slowly, about what you expected?
Yeah, it's about what I expected. A mediocre product and angry fans, man. But for me, Ian, at 10-12, I think this team is just about where I factored them to be. You know, they had a couple of good wins, a couple of those West Coast wins, whether it was against a hot Utah Jazz team or in Denver on the second night of a back-to-back. I thought those were pretty impressive. But they had their chances this week to really get a couple more statement wins against a hot Portland team. Couldn't close in crunch time. Defense fell apart. Simons and Jeremy Grant cooked them. Against Memphis, yeah, Jalen Brunson had two good looks at it to really seal that game or even tie that game for the Knicks. Couldn't get it done. And then against a real Eastern Conference powerhouse in the Milwaukee Bucks, on the second night of a back-to-back, thought the Knicks gave it as good a shot as they could. But again, crunch time execution just doomed them. And so they are where I expected them to be. But you did come out with a report today saying that, you know, the temperature on the stove could be rising a little bit.
Yeah, I think that was true, at least as of after that OKC loss where the Knicks gave up 145 in regulation. I think that there was more scrutiny at that point, and I haven't heard anything that leads me to believe that has turned down at all. And I think that, you know, it's not solely Tom Thibodeau, that internal scrutiny. It's the entire organization. And you might say, you know, 10-12, it's about where you'd think this team would be. And I agree with you, CP. I think, you know, based on the roster, this is, you know, give or take a game or two, this is where you'd expect this Knicks team to be. But given how things had played out for the Knicks to get here, to get Jalen Brunson, to shed salary, to create the cap space to get Jalen Brunson, and then to be on pace to win 37 games, the same number that you won last year, I think the Knicks are going to have to pick up the pace in the win total, from a win total perspective, and start to, you know, make some hay in the schedule. And it doesn't get easier for the Knicks in December. It's still a tough schedule, 2 easy games at the end of the year, but it's going to be challenging for this club. I think it depends. You talked about some of the losses, some of the wins. I think it depends on how you lose. If you're losing these games, if you're competitive, I think that tells you that this team is connected still and maybe moving in the right direction. Some of those lopsided losses that you also cited, I think about the Atlanta loss was a bad one. Oklahoma City loss was a bad one. The loss in Brooklyn was a bad one. Those kinds of losses, if they continue to pile up, I would think that scrutiny just continues to increase and maybe makes it more likely that a decision is made in some way, shape, or form, a major one. But we're not there yet, right? And so sitting here 10-12, Knicks have a couple home games this weekend, and, you know, the big picture sense, CP, I was thinking about this earlier, like pro sports, it's crazy sometimes. The ball bounces a couple different ways for the Knicks over these first 22 games. Maybe they're sitting at 12-10, right, 13-9, and it's a total different conversation. I think it would be a total different conversation around the team. But they don't execute some of these games, and 10-12, and this is where we are.
Yeah, it's tough. And when I think about the scrutiny, I have to look at Leon Rose. I looked at it from last year and thought that if he didn't make his big splash soon, then eyes are going to be on him. And yes, he had a chance at Donovan Mitchell. And however we want to look at why it didn't work out for the Knicks, they didn't get him. And they didn't get their big target. But now you look at the moves that Rose has made. You look at log jams at the 5. There's log jams at the guard position. You have a deep roster, but of almost even talent, and of guys who are good on one side of the ball, but not necessarily two-way players. And so it causes it makes it a difficult job for the coach once again, whether it's managing rotations, minutes, who to play, who to start, because you just have inconsistent play.
It is tricky. I mean, Tom Thibodeau, I know, I think it's every coach in this town, no matter what the sport, they're going to be scrutinized. And when your team's losing, you're going to get on the head coach. That's just the nature, I think, of the beast in pro sports in general, particularly here. But Tom Thibodeau, like, it's easy to look at all his decisions that he makes in a given game or a given week. And if things aren't going well, you know, it's easy to guess those decisions. And maybe that second guessing is correct. I'm not here to say it is or it isn't. But when you have depth, depth is great when you're winning. If you're, stopping teams and you're getting, to play all the guys in a blowout scenario. But depth when you're a middling team, it can create headaches for the head coach. And I think you see that here with the Knicks. The one thing, CP, I want to get your thoughts on this. I really look back at the, training camp to now. If Quentin Grimes is healthy, I just wonder how much different the Knicks look right now. Because I know that at least internally, some people felt that he was going to be the opening day starting shooting guard.
Yeah.
Obviously, he gets hurt, and the injury was a tricky one. But I just wonder what this team would look like if Grimes was healthy from day one, where they would be right now.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, but I think Cam filled in admirably when Grimes was on his way back. I think that's one thing that you can say has been a bright spot. It's been Cam Reddish's defense. Him being, for me, where you have log jams in many other positions, the one true wing on this team. And I thought, Cam really served his case well by jumping into the starting rotation and playing good defense. But, when you think about their vulnerabilities at the point of attack, obviously you look at Brunson there. RJ doesn't seem to really be able to keep up a lot. He seems a lot slower on the defensive end. Julius, his defensive awareness is never consistent. And so I think that's what makes for this defense being 25th ranked in the league right now. I think it's partly your big three in the starting rotation just don't defend all that well.
Yeah, it's not a Tom Thibodeau team the way that he's kind of made his bones in the NBA, so to speak, his reputation. Certainly not defending like I'm sure he would like, but offensively, some of the numbers are very good. The 3-point shooting is not good, but other numbers like transition, points in the paint, offensive rebounding, the Knicks have very strong numbers when you look up and down the league. And so I think there are reasons to think that the Knicks can turn a corner at some point. I think that belief is there in the locker room. Right? Jalen Brunson talks about it a lot. RJ Barrett was saying it too. Like they feel like, hey, look at the way we're losing. Like Milwaukee, we're right there. Memphis, we're right there. So they feel like, they can turn a corner. But I think it's a pivotal stretch here for everybody. Leon Rose on down. This is, I think, a pivotal month for this group. If you tread water, if you win some games, maybe on paper you're not expected to win, I think everything's fine. If you have some of those ugly losses, too many of them, I think it could be trouble. So, it's a telling month for this Knicks team this season, and I think in the Leon Rose era coming up here.
No question about it. And salute to everybody in the chat. Once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. CP and Ian Begley on the ones and twos. If you guys have a couple questions for Ian, we'll take some questions, man. 657-383-1509 is the number to call, or you could hit us up on the Knicks Fan TV Discord. And Ian, RJ Barrett has, he's in the sights of Knicks fans right now. He signed the contract extension over the summer. He obviously, his name was in the Donovan Mitchell talks, but in my opinion, I had the Knicks penciled the Knicks at 41 wins, but I felt like if they were really gonna inch closer to 50 and really solidify themselves in that bottom rung of the East, I felt like RJ was really going to have to take another step up in year 4. And that meant more efficient shooting, closer to 40 from 3, finishing well, drawing more contact into the line, getting to closer to 20, 22, 24 points per game. But he seems to be offensively around where he's been last year. Now, the three-point shooting is down to 28%, which is abysmal. But also defensively is where I see like he's taking a step back even from last year. And then on top of that, offensively, I just don't see enough winning type of plays from him where it's not, put my head down and drive to the basket. I don't see him trying to set guys up. He has his moments where he's getting guys involved. But for me, I think he's got to look to do that a little bit more rather than just forcing the issue.
The thing I wonder about with RJ, I mean, the shooting, maybe I'm kind of being blind to what we've seen the past couple of weeks, but I never get too concerned with RJ shooting. I think it's just going to be, I think it's going to improve incrementally until he's at his ceiling as a shooter. And so I would assume that over the course of this month and then the rest of the year, his shooting is going to be fine. He's kind of established a pattern in that respect, starting out slowly and then getting it going. Why it happens, I don't know. But it has happened over the past couple of seasons. The thing that is surprises me a bit is the defense. And also, you saw him in that Portland game in particular. And even after that, I was looking at some of the box outs, and he missed some box outs that led to second chance points. And he's a high IQ player, right? He understands what he's looking at on the court. I think he understands situations he's in. So I'm just wondering, like, he did add some muscle in the offseason. I'm just wondering if maybe that has slowed him down, because he doesn't strike me as a player that's going to just take plays off and allow himself to get beat from a pride perspective and from a way he approaches the game. But I just wonder if there's something else there and what it might be. He did talk after that last game about shot selection, seeing the film when he was struggling with his shot. He felt like he took some good shots, but he also took some bad shots. So he said, just getting those bad shots out of my diet is a key. And I think the last couple of games he's looked better offensively. So let's see where we are, mid-December, late December with RJ and the shooting percentages. But yeah, defensively and box outs in particular over the last couple of games has been surprising to me.
Yeah, I agree. But like I said, to whom much is given, much is expected. And now that he signed that contract, man, the fans expect greatness from RJ on a nightly basis. But, I've kind of tempered my expectations for him based on what I've seen over the last 3 years. And not to say that I don't think he can improve mightily, but I just feel like right now he kind of looks like a guy who may top out as a third or fourth best player on a good team.
I think, a lot of people, like fans, but also, scouts and people from other teams, that's kind of the way they see him too, as his ceiling. And look, if he's on a team, whether it's the Knicks or another team, that's built properly to contend, and then he is your third best player, I think he can fill that role really well, and he can make winning plays and help you win games as he continues to progress and mature as a player. So there's nothing wrong with that. But I do think that that's a kind of a common expectation for him as far as his ceiling. The jump to a 2 or a 1, I think would mean a really, really big increase in field goal percentage shooting and other areas, but particularly there. But listen, if the Knicks are what fans want them to be, what Leon Rose wants them to be, what James Dolan wants them to be, ultimately, you build and you get a star or two, and you have RJ Barrett here as a great complementary piece to go and compete in the Eastern Conference. We're obviously a long way away from that, but I think that's important to note when you're talking about RJ's ceiling and what he can be.
And when you look at the investment they made in Brunson, I love the Brunson acquisition. Love everything that he's brought to the team. Yes, defensively, sometimes things can get a little bit hairy, but what he's brought as a clutch player, as a scorer in the paint, and just bringing that electricity to the Garden, I think he's been tough. He's been everything as advertised. And then you look at RJ and his potential ceiling. I moved down to Julius, who Yes, offensively, he's been fine so far. Defensively, we know who he's been defensively. This is who he is. Some nights he'll give you a stellar effort. That night in Denver, prime example. Terrific in the fourth quarter, leading his team on both ends. And then there's other nights where he's just losing guys left and right, or missing assignments, or not rotating fast enough. But I just feel like with Julius, this is his fourth year on this team, and we know how far this team can go with Julius on the team. And then when you look at what they brought in, drafting Obi Toppin, re-signing Julius, I just have a hard time seeing Leon Rose and his staff being content with the Obi Julius dynamic. And yes, Obi shot the ball well from three, but just having him as just that, stand in the corner, shoot the three here and there. And yes, he'll get out there on the outlets and in transition and score, but is that really what they envision for the number 8 pick in the draft? It's very hard, very hard to see.
I think the answer is no. That's not what they envision. And I think, CP, we probably talked about this before, but my understanding was the drafting of Obi Toppin in part was with the idea that eventually Julius Randle, you find a trade that you like, and then you open up the slot for Obi Toppin. But Julius Randle then goes and has an All-NBA season, to his credit, helps lead the Knicks to 41 wins, 41-31,
41.
number 4 seed in the East. And a development that not many people saw coming. And then if you're the Knicks, you're in a place where, hey, we have to extend Julius Randle, or we have to re-sign him as a free agent. He just put us on his back and put us in a place where we didn't expect to be after year one. And then you also have Obi Toppin. So that dynamic, it's not going to go away unless one of them is moved. And I would think that I can't tell you what these guys are thinking with regards to that dynamic, because I would have thought it would have been sorted out one way or the other once you got to this point. The idea that it hasn't, I just don't know. I guess maybe they're waiting to see what could come, in the trade market as you get closer to the deadline. Although I can't see Julius getting moved in season unless the Knicks have to make a big swing and really have to are looking to save themselves and really get things turned around at the deadline. Outside of that scenario, I can't see them making a move, trading Julius. So yeah, it seems like it's one of those scenarios where everybody's kind of just, I don't want to say stuck, but nothing is moving in the dynamic. So you just live with it and you live with the results until something changes.
Yeah, I think they tied themselves in a knot with this thing. And to me, they are kind of stuck because you do have Julius sitting here with, yes, his deal is just kicked in. He's got 4 years on his deal. But as I said, I feel like their ceiling with him is capped. And it's not that Julius is a bad player per se. It's just that he adds to them being stuck in no man's land. And for me, they need to continue to peel this thing back. They looked at Mitchell, didn't go that route. Instead of bringing in more pieces on top of this, I think they need to move it back. Move Julius, move Fournier, move Rose, and free up some more opportunity, but really also give themselves a good shot in the draft to really pull something out that can really help move the needle for this team. They have the Dallas pick. They have their own pick. They have a couple of first-round picks in a deep draft. I think they really need to put their efforts that way, realize where they are right now, and maybe they get lucky come lottery night.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, CP. But if you're talking about here and now, but if you're looking at this thing and you're looking at from where it started with Leon Rose, and you're talking about deals that really the Knicks just signed 2 summers ago, and you're talking about trading more of those contracts and not totally shifting into a rebuild, because the idea would be to, I guess, get quality draft choices and use those either as assets or draft players. But the idea that you would trade Derrick Rose and Evan Fournier after trading Nerlens Noel and Alec Burks, and Kemba Walker not working out, it's just, you look at that offseason from a couple summers ago, and if you're signing the checks, if you're James Dolan, I would assume you're scratching your head a little bit. if they go that route and make those moves. Again, making a lot of sense to me in a vacuum, but given the context of everything, I think you put a bigger bullseye on yourself if you're Leon Rose and his group and you just trade off those guys looking to free up minutes for younger guys and saying maybe we'll get a higher pick come late June.
Hard to kind of wave that white flag in front of the owner who's been cutting the checks, right? And then basically showing him, hey, we made a lot of wrong moves here. And it's difficult. That's where it gets tricky. That's where it gets tricky. And I even look at the previous draft where, punting on that draft pick, and you look around the league now at this rookie class, you had a lot of guys that could have helped the Knicks rotation. Jalen Williams with OKC. I looked at a guy like Atari Eason defensively who could have really, a real defensive energy guy who could have helped this team. Maybe, I don't know if there's any interest in a Benedict Mathurin, but a lot of people expected his play right now this rookie season. He's having an outstanding year for Indiana. I wonder if anyone in the organization would have wanted to have kept that pick and brought in a player here rather than punt for the future.
Well, I'm sure that the guys who get paid to scout college players and high school players all year round, I'm sure they wanted to keep the pick. The thing that I wonder is, given where the Knicks were coming into this season, having to show improvement, market improvement, something you can measure, would Tom Thibodeau have wanted to play that rookie? Would he have trusted that rookie to be in his rotation, and him knowing that he had to win games night in and night out? So I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I do think that would have been a factor if they kept that pick. Would Thibodeau have seen that player and said, I can trust him to put me in the best position to win night in and night out over player X who he'd be taking minutes from?
Yeah, it's that, and that's the thing for me. It's just like where the expectations are and where this team really should be going. There's just so much misalignment, man. I think that's the most frustrating thing. A couple more for you. So to everybody in the chat, once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Ian Begley joins us for the Knicks quarter season report. I do see a couple of calls on the line, and we will get to that. I did mention Cam earlier, and as I said, I felt like Cam has played well. He seems like he's solidified a spot in the rotation, whether it's starter or off the bench, because of how much his defense is needed. What do you see as the long-term play with Cam here? They didn't negotiate the contract extension in the summer. I believe he'll be a restricted free agent going into this coming off season. What do you think about the long-term future with Cam and the Knicks?
I would assume that the Knicks are going to be at least faced with a decision at the deadline, because I would assume at least a couple teams call them and say, hey, we're going to give you X, Y, Z. We want Cam. And they're going to have to think long and hard about it. The Lakers have been a team that's consistently showed interest in Cam Reddish. I know that the Miami Heat touched base with the Knicks at some point either last season or early last offseason about Cam Reddish. I believe the Bucks did as well. So, teams, are especially when he was not playing, teams were monitoring that situation and wondering how it was going to go. So there's going to be interest in Cam Reddish at the trade deadline. At that point, if you're the Knicks, you have to do your math and say, we're willing to pay him X. Is he going to accept X? If not, do we have to trade him? Yeah. So I think that's the immediate future for Reddish. And I agree with you. I think Reddish has earned, I should say, a spot in this rotation. And maybe it's not even like the idea that he's been perfect, because he hasn't been perfect. But I think he's shown you enough to where you say, we got to keep giving him minutes and seeing where he takes it, because you said it. He is probably the only true wing, a player that has the potential to be a strong two-way player. And he had shown it in fits and starts in Atlanta. He frustrated people with the Hawks. But, sometimes it takes guys a few years to really get to their potential and get to a place where they can bring it every night. And maybe you're seeing Cam Reddish continue to progress to that point.
And I also have to wonder if Grimes stays healthy and maintains his spot in the starting rotation. Is Cam happy with that role off the bench? He wanted to leave the Hawks for an expanded role with another team, but I have to wonder if by the time the end of the season comes around, or if he's here by then, if he'll be satisfied with that role, or he'll look for, greener pastures and expanded role. We'll have to see how that plays out. Quickley's name has come up in trade talks, and some of the fan base that haven't been too pleased with it. I think the sentiment has been, if you're gonna trade Quickley just to punt for the future, why trade a young player like that whose defense has been, Quickley to me has been next to Cam and Grimes, one of your best defenders. And the guy's his shot, yes, it goes up and down, but he's been shooting it a lot better lately. But I think that's been the sentiment among the fan base. Like, why trade Quickley for a future pick when you could use him right now and beyond?
Yeah, man, I know earlier, I should say, in the year, certainly teams were calling, the Knicks were having conversations about it. I can't tell you right now exactly where they sit, but teams, the Knicks were not hanging up the phone earlier this year with Emmanuel Quickley. And if you look at the big picture, it's maybe it's not as much about the idea that he's playing well right now, but more so like you look at a couple years down the line, or this summer, he's extension eligible, right? And the Knicks have salary committed to Julius Randle and to Jalen Brunson and to RJ Barrett and to others. And I think it's at the point financially where, can you extend both Obi Toppin and Emmanuel Quickley? I think that's a question you at least have to ask yourself if you're the Knicks, and maybe you operate based on the answer to that question with Quickley at the deadline. But I say that I say all that to say teams are calling about players all the time. Yeah. This just happened to be something that got out. I would assume that the Knicks are getting calls on a bunch of players that we don't even know about. Mm-hmm. But with Quickley, I think that the future factors in, and the idea that you have money tied up to guys already, and how much can you allocate to the younger players on this roster who are going to be extension eligible and still make it all work.
Can't keep everybody, man. Tough decisions to make. Let's get this quick phone call in. Let's go to Greg from Connecticut. Greg, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? You hear me?
Loud and clear. What's going on?
What's up, Greg?
Hey, what's going on, man? What's going on, Ian? Hey, I just wanted to throw on my cape for the front office and Tibbs real quick, man, if I can. Mm-hmm. I want to make it rapid fire, though. But I do want to say, I think that the front office and Tibbs have been doing a good job, man. I think that there are things that Tibbs could be doing better. I do think that the front office has addressed everything that they needed to address at the time. You know what I mean? Like, when they first came on, I think that they were planning for a rebuild, which is why they got Obi. You know what I mean? But then, like you said, Ian, Randle went on to have the year he had. You have to re-sign him. We're dealing with the repercussions of that now, but we had to. We had no choice because he had that amazing season. I think the following year we addressed the scoring that we needed with Kemba Walker, with Evan Fournier. Everybody loved those moves. We were screaming 50 burger on here the whole time last summer, CP. Mm-hmm. So we all love the moves. But it didn't work out. And I think that I think it's unfair to look back at that and blame the front office as if they did things that weren't good for the team at the moment that we thought would work out. You know what I'm saying? I think that Tibbs' first year, he was number 4 in defense in the league. I think, if I'm not mistaken, last year we were number 11. You know what I mean? I think if you told me that we would have a top 4 and top 11 defense, we already know that that's Tibbs' thing. Granted, this year has been a big slip, but
25.
We're only 20 games in.
25 so far.
Yeah. 25. Yeah. You're right. But it's been a big slip, and I think that, hopefully we can get back to that identity. But I do think that if we fire Tibbs and we hire whoever we're going to hire, I think, we're still a 500 team regardless. And I think that the inconsistencies that the Knicks have had within head coaching has also been a problem. I mean, if you fire Tibbs and bring in somebody else, I think that'll be 4 head coaches for RJ in 4 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I think that's a problem.
Got it. I'm just kind of just pressed for time, but I get what you're saying. E, what's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think if you look at, let's say, the Knicks from the last 10, 15 years, has there been a team that's like better positioned to at least make the next move in terms of having young players, having draft picks? You don't have cap space anymore, but you still have young players, you still have draft picks, and you can see a path forward to where they can ascend. Whether they get there or not it depends on a million factors, including the decisions to come. But I understand where Greg's coming from in terms of, if you've been paying attention to this team, rooting for this team for the past 20 years, this is probably one of the most promising positions the club has been in over those past 20 years. And that's a credit to coaching staff. It's a credit to the front office. And, so I think that there's reasons to still hold out hope that this thing can work. And I agree with the idea of continuity and how important that is. So no one's asking my opinion, but if I was writing the checks, I would at least want Leon Rose and his group to have the opportunity to make that big swing of a trade, to bring in the top player. That if I'm Jim Dolan, the reason I hire these guys is to bring two stars in. So I would still give Leon Rose a chance to take that big swing, to me, as long as things don't just completely fall off the rails, because they have shown that they can make competent decisions, and you can understand a lot of what's happened. It's been a little sideways here and there, but I see where Greg is coming from.
Yeah, I mean, look, I wouldn't say that Rose has done a bad job. He just hasn't moved the needle just yet. And I agree with Greg. Yes, the moves that they made in the past years, when you looked at it, I understood them. I understood the reason to go get a Fournier and go get Kemba on the cheap at that time. I understood, bringing back Rose and Burks and those guys, bringing back the guys that you made the playoffs with. But it just hasn't yielded anything. And I feel like a lot of people have this stance because we who have either watched this team or covered this team for X amount of years understand that the guy writing the checks is short on patience. And Bondi said it best on the putback today. He said Dolan is very reactionary. And if they're going out there and they're letting go of the rope and they're having embarrassing losses, or they're not living up to or playing up to expectations, it's only a matter of time. They won 37 games last year. Now they've made an investment in Brunson. They have an investment in Julius, an investment in RJ. How much longer does James Dolan sit around and wait for Leon to make a big swing? I mean, Embiid's not going anywhere for that time. Booker's not going anywhere for now. So I mean, who's really the guy that as Bondi said again, Mitchell was that swing to make, at least, for the near term. But who else is out there that can really, really move the needle for this franchise? I just have a hard time seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, that's why those guys at the top, Leon Rose, William Wesley, they get paid the big bucks to figure that out, to look around the corners and see things that, people on the outside can't see. And so are they going to get it done? Or is the big swing going to work? Is the big swing are they going to be able to take the big swing? These are all the questions that are on my mind right now as the Knicks sit here at the quarter point of this season. And one thing on James Dolan, yes, reactionary for sure. But I think that, at least in talking to a couple of people who have worked there in the past, he also just wants to know about process and does it make sense? And are the moves like aligning with something that, you can understand, and you can understand the path forward? And that's where I think this past offseason, where you're moving salary and using second round draft picks to move off salary to sign Jalen Brunson, to me, if I'm looking at a big picture, I'm saying, all right, I want to see results now. And Jim Dolan, you look at the Rangers and the Knicks, this is a results business for him. He wants to see results at some point, agree with it or disagree with it. This is the third full season for Leon Rose in this group, and I think that he wants to see results. So we'll see. Either they win the games, or they lose competitively, or they don't, and then I think the owner has to make a decision.
Absolutely, man. Well, Ian, for the quarter season report, we definitely appreciate it, and we'll see how things play out at the half, man. Knicks 10-12 on the campaign right now. Tough slate ahead. They have Dallas coming up on Saturday. They have Donovan Mitchell and the Cleveland Cavaliers coming into town, so hopefully he doesn't embarrass them too bad. But and hopefully they can weather the storm. I mean, we'll see how it plays out. But I wanted to have this kind of home and home with you, man, because I wanted to announce to the fan base that Ian has joined us here on KnicksFanTV Live tonight. Tomorrow night, I will be making my debut on SNY TV, the cable channel, on Honda Sports Night, talking Knicks in Dallas preview, man. So catch your boy CP the Franchise on SNY TV, whatever channel it is on your local cable on your local cable station this Friday around 10 p.m. Eastern time, man. CP the Franchise, Honda Sports Night, SNY TV, man. So Ian, definitely appreciate all the support for KnicksFanTV, and thanks again for your time, man. Looking forward to it, man.
I love it, man. I love it. I can't wait for Friday night. Yeah. I'm tuned in. I hope everybody else is tuned in. It's going to be great. CP, I don't want to out you, but now that you're a TV guy and I'm on TV a little bit, like we were talking makeup before. So,
yeah, man.
You know, now we're talking about something totally different than the Knicks. But I wish you luck, man. And I'm so happy for you. First of all, you deserve it. And I'm excited to see it, excited to see your continued growth. And we'll both be watching this team intently, and let's see where things go.
Appreciate it, man. Well, like I said, your support has been a driving force of it, man. So I appreciate you for believing in us, man, and continuing to support, man. So best of luck to you, and we'll talk soon, man.
Thank you, my friend. That all sounds good. My thumb's always up.
Ian Begley, ladies and gentlemen. That was the Knicks quarter season report, man. So what did you guys think, man? Leave us some comments in the comment section below, or you can tweet at Ian on Twitter. You know, he's always around, always chopping it up with the Knicks, man. Go ahead and support us on SNY TV, on SNY media channels. I'll also be on Ian's show, The Putback, with Ian Begley next week, Thursday, a week from today, at 1 p.m. Eastern time, man. So make sure that you guys are setting that in. But one more time, just to remind the people at home that I will be on SNY, the TV channel, tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern on Honda Sports Night, previewing the Knicks and Dallas Mavericks game, man. So looking forward to that. And once again, appreciate everybody for tuning in. Remember that the show is available in audio podcast format, all the major podcast platforms. So if you missed it tonight on video, you could always catch it on audio. So don't forget to catch that. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Subscribe to the channel. Share these videos. And also, speaking of Dallas and the Knicks, my guy Alex Rotaros, the Stratocaster, our Game of the Week preview will be premiering tonight. It might be starting now. I think I asked Jared to start it up now. So might be premiering tonight. So as we log off here, make sure you guys tap into the channel for the Knicks versus Mavericks Game of the Week preview. We sat down from our guys from Mavs Outsiders to dish on Luka, the Mavs, and company, man. So more content. Got a lot of content going on this weekend, man, around the channel. So make sure you guys tap in. All right? See you guys. Peace.